Welcome into Nashville GameChangers. I'm your host, Jill Jelnick, and really excited to finally launch this new podcast. We've been in the works with this for a long time, and I'm also really excited to introduce our first guest. You know him as one of the more prominent faces on the Tennessee Titans, three-time Pro Bowler and defensive lineman Jeffery Simmons. Big Jeff, thank you so much for taking time out of your off-season to join us. I see you're on the golf course, you told me, in Dallas. It looks like a nice day. How are you hitting it today?
I've been hitting pretty good so far. I think that and fishing been kind of my off-season go-to. I think I'm pretty solid at fishing. Now I've been trying to up my golf game. So on my free time after like today, I had a little rough day today. Work with workouts, had lower bodies, and maybe I need to go out there and try to swing them clubs a little bit. So I done picked up golf a little bit more, and it's one of them things like football. I want to be good at it, so I've been trying to work my tail off at it and by getting out here and trying to swing at a couple balls. So it's a great day out here in Texas.
I have to imagine that's a pretty good off-season routine if you're waking up, getting your workout in, and then a little golf and a little fishing, right? Have you always done that in the off-season?
Well, I picked up golf, I want to say, maybe like 2 years ago, but especially fishing, I think I fish every off season. Um, I think that's kind of fishing was one of my getaway from the game of football. Even during the season, I used to go, I could even go on a Tuesday on my off day. So once I do all my recovery stuff, I think fishing just, I think it's like golf, once you really fall in love with it, especially outside of your everyday living, is football for me. So once I really found out that I enjoy fishing growing up, and I kind of been sticking with it, and like I said, that's kind of like being out there on water, being beside water, just real peaceful for me. So I love fishing. I enjoy fishing, and like I said, been picking up golf. Like I said, it's golf hard. It's one of them things that it make you want to keep coming back, and that's the reason why I keep coming back out here and trying to get the golf swing together.
Well, and anyone in the NFL world that knows football, knows the game, knows that 6-month period, or as soon as training camp starts to the end of the season, it's a grind, and you really don't have a ton of time for those mental resets like you do in the off season, right? And I imagine coming off of last season, this has probably been an off season where you've really had to press the reset button and also reflect a lot about last year and how tough it was that ending for this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I do. One thing I really do every offseason is kind of reflect on how my season went and kind of where I could have been better. I have that talk with my uncle. Like I said, he played 10 years in the NFL, so just be able to talk with him about my season, and of course he watched a lot of my games, so it's like, and be there at a lot of my games, so it's like, what I could have done better here, or how can I defeated this double team, things that try to, take my game to the next level. I still feel like I haven't reached that peak. I still feel like I have so many better years than, my first 6 years. I just feel like, each and every year I feel like, things that I really need to improve on and keep improving. I think for me, even with the doubles team, and, some people don't recognize that, and we talk about that later, but it's one of the things that just things that that I see on tape that not out of my control. A lot of team game plan for me, so it's just talking to Denard and figuring out the ways for to free me up and to give me more one-on-ones. I think that's the biggest thing that even the conversation that I need to eventually continue to having with him and Coach Rockers. So last season it was draining, as we all know. Not just for the players in the locker room. It was draining for all fans as well. It sucks going 3-14 or whatever the record was. So yeah, it sucks, and it was one of the things that not. I mean, I know all fans, they hated it the way things were going, but I don't think they hated it as worse as we did in the locker room. A lot of guys and everybody in that locker room put a lot of time into it. It just last year wasn't all year, and last 3 years, I haven't been to the playoff. I got spoiled them first 3 years where we had a pretty good team the first 2 years, and hopefully this year we could get back to that just by getting back to the playoff and getting to our ultimate goal. Like I said, them last 3 years haven't been fun not making the playoffs. So I'm excited. I've been feeling real good. Of course, I just a couple things I dealt with last year with the elbows, and they've been feeling much better. I, First off season in 2 years where I haven't had to really rehab nothing. Of course, like I still do maintenance stuff for my elbow, but it's the first off season, in 2 years, like I said, that I haven't had to get cut up on. So I kind of been locked in and really getting after it up here in Texas, and I'm excited to see, what year seven have in store for me.
Yeah, great to hear that elbow's doing well. You're healthy. You've had a great off season physically for you. Also, it sounds like mentally as well. And you mentioned the end of last season. And the crazy thing is, I remember specifically talking to you at the end of the final game of the regular season that lost to the Texans. And I asked you, Jeff, I said, was this the most challenging year for you in your NFL career, 6 years? And you said, yes, this was the most challenging season. Looking back, now that you've had some time to reflect, what was the most challenging part of last year?
We had so many, it wasn't even just, the losing. I think at the end of the day, we all hate losing. But when you have everybody knew, we have so many young guys, like, at one point we probably had like maybe 5 rookies starting games for us. So it's like when you trying to, and I talked about it earlier, even at the Super Bowl, when I talk about it, when I was talking about just my different type of leadership, the way I lead, and everybody didn't take it well, with the way I was leading. So I think that was like a shock and kind of one of them things that, all right, you got to figure out ways to reach guys better, because, like I said, I'm very, when it come down to the game of football, my emotions, I don't know how people not have the all 100,000% of emotions into it, because every time I step into the locker room, every time I step on the field, I don't leave no emotions inside of that locker room. So at the end of the day, I think that was the biggest thing, the first biggest thing, being able to reach some of my teammates, because we had so many young guys who fresh out of college, they, the NIL thing, they already getting paid as, the same as some of these guys that been in the league. So it's like, how do you really reach some of these young guys and, let them know that you're gonna be hard as hell on them, but also, that at the end of the day, I'm out here to help you. I'm out here, trying to help you win a football game just like you. So, and like I said, just that was my first time going through a coaching change in the NFL. I've been through it in college. I think my college, my 3 years of college, I had a different DC the whole year. I mean, my whole 3 years. And when I was at Mississippi State, so it wasn't a shock that I had a different coach. It was all. I think the biggest thing was, trying to figure out this new culture that we're trying to build, and because everybody knew the Vrabel culture. You came in, everybody knew, like, everybody hearing how Vrabel coached, and did you hear about our foundation and the culture that he established way before you got there. I heard about it. They said when I first got drafted, people were telling me about Vrabel, this and that, I'm like, okay. But when I got there, it made even more sense. And I was under there for 5 years. So I think that also was not even, I wouldn't say a shock. It was more like, now it's time to really adapt to this new culture. Being there doing OTAs and figure out, how Cali want things, and I think even with me and Cali, we had a great conversation at the end of the season, just about how things could get better, as a team and as a head coach. And he's one of them guys that want to be a great head coach in this league, and I can see that happening. So, you know, and one of the things I always say, even throughout the season when things was getting tough, like, I told the media and I told you guys that I believed in what Cali preaching. I believe in Denard and everything they telling us, that we're gonna get to that point eventually. But like I said, that was just a couple of things that throughout the year that for me, it's just like, how to lead and get the message from Cali to try to translate to the guys in a way that maybe he can't do it, or in a way that they can accept it. I think that was the biggest thing for me, the challenging thing. It's kind of, I think that, like, when the guys who, even people on the outside question the leadership in the locker room, I didn't feel like our leadership was terrible. I think we all was just trying to figure out, on a go as, especially when things were getting tough. Like, this is not my first rodeo. Of course not in the NFL, but it's not my first time not, winning football games. Through college, I had a rough time, especially my freshman year, but just trying to figure out, especially when you do start losing game, how do you get to certain guys? Like I said, our leadership wasn't bad. It was just certain things where we just have to clean up, and tighten up, even throughout the week and things of that nature. But
Yeah.
like I said, I think with the way we going and the mindset that a lot of guys had at the end of that season, even when we getting beat, in that fourth quarter, like, I could just go back to that Detroit games, like, as a defense, we could have easily, like, man, we could have started pointing fingers at special team and this and that. But not, like me, Art, and Harold, like, we put it in our mindset that, in our mind, that no matter what, we're going to finish games. We're going to give this team everything we have. So I think just that type of mindset that we were trying to preach and show to all the other guys in the defensive room and to the team, I think that'll go a long way, especially now that we know we're gonna have more young guys. Now that which gonna be on their second year plan, and even guys going to their third year that played a lot of meaningful snaps for us. So I'm excited about what this year brings for us, most definitely.
Yeah, you mentioned the defense, and I think a lot of people also forget with a new head coach comes new coordinators. And last year was your first year under Denard Wilson, and defense had a strong start, especially at the beginning of the season. Do you feel like with Coach Wilson, with just having one season and now going into the second year with this defense, you guys have barely even scratched the surface of what you could do with Coach Wilson?
Yeah, most definitely. I didn't have them conversation with Denard. I didn't had even early this offseason, he reached out to me, just telling me that his new his mindset was going into this season, and just letting us be disrupting and getting off the ball and things of that nature. But Denard, his energy he bring, I told Denard, like, we used to have talk throughout the season when, I'm getting double teamed the whole game, and just I would talk to him like, I don't mind it because, like, that's free other guys. I'm not a selfish player, but just talking about me right now, I'm thinking, like, I was talking to him like, Denard, you can move me around. We could figure out things the way we could affect the game more. And that's one of the things that I was talking to him about. And, he understand that, and I think that's the great thing about talking to him. He was able to, give me that feedback, and he understood exactly where I was coming from by wanting to affect the game more. So, I really, with so many guys that, like I said, guys like Jarvis Brownlee and, Cedric, I know Denard is going to get the best out of them, especially going into their second year. So that's exactly what you said. I don't think we even scratched the surface yet. Because, like I said, we have so many guys playing meaningful snaps for us that didn't probably think they were even going to even play last year on that defense, because of guys like Sneed and Cheeto, K9. Before all them guys got hurt, they probably didn't think they was going to even get some reps, starting, like I said, starting in the NFL. So I'm excited to see what he could do with them young guys to help us win some games, because they have the potential to be some of the best in this league. Like, even guys like Jarvis. One of the guys that I'm always on. I be on him pretty hard, and because the potential he have, and when he's on, he's on, and that's what I'm most excited to see, especially this upcoming year, just to see how much he could grow as a player and just with the game of football.
You're listening to Nashville Game Changers with Jill Jelnick. We'll be right back after this. One of the reasons why I wanted to name this podcast Nashville Game Changers is because I wanted to shine a light on the foundations, the community service, the work that our athletes, our coaches, our teams do in this city, because it's so much. And there's no question, Jeff, that you are a Nashville game changer when it comes to helping this city of Nashville. And one of the amazing events that you help every year, the annual Rally on the Runway, one of my favorite events because it raises money for for children battling cancer, also cancer research. And for those that aren't familiar with Rally on the Runway, it's so cool because it's a wonderful, beautiful night where the kids get dressed up, kids that are currently battling cancer, and they walk down the runway hand in hand with Titans players. And I've seen you do that the last several years. You have the biggest smile on your face during Rally on the Runway. I have to imagine that is one of the most rewarding feelings that you've ever had.
And yeah, I would tell you, like, that's one of the events that I really look forward to every off season. It's one of them events that, it's sometime where, like, even last year I was hearing a little girl's story when she got up there telling, throughout the whole process of her cancer and how she beat it. I'm like, Jesus, like all I can think about is my daughter living in the, in this house, in my house with me. And I'm like, what if that was my daughter? And that's the first thing that comes to mind. It's like, man, like this is heartbreaking for the family. Every day they getting up, having to go to treatment, they having to spend nights in the hospital, and it's one of them things where it just touched because when you have kids and that's the only thing you could think of, just one day out of nowhere, your child gets sick, and it's like you don't know what to do. Is you're hearing the doctors saying this and that, but at this point, you only want your child to come home feeling back normal, and that's what I'm thinking about when I'm at Rally on the Runway, and like even a couple weeks ago, just to see some of the kids. One of the kids came in. He had just left treatment, and it's like you can see how draining it is for them kids. But you know, one thing about it, they still have a smile on their face, and it's like when you see that, it's like these kids are dealing with so much, and the fact that sometimes we could have this normal life, the game of football. Speak on that because that's what I do every day. So it's like you come in the building, it's like it's about to be a long day. We got a camp day, and camp getting long, and but we're so it's easy to go in and think about how we're going to attack that next day. For these parents, it's hard as hell for them to not know what may happen to their kids the next day. So, you know, um, Rally on the Runaway is one of those things that, when I think the first person told me about it was Kevin KB, and he that's when he was a chairman, the spokesperson of Rally on the Runway. And I remember him telling me, like, I'm kind of getting towards the end of my career here in Nashville. I don't really know what may happen. I want you to take over for me. And, with me, I think before I took over, I want to say that was like my second time going before I actually took over. So, just to be able to be there, when I first started going, I'm like, man, this is unbelievable. This event they doing, and the Rally Foundation of the event they doing to raise, money and awareness for childhood cancer. Like, this is what I want to be a part of because, like I said, my foundation is already around the youth, and now just this right here just put the icing on the cake. So, yeah. So yeah, next week is the event. I'm looking forward to going. As we know that I think childhood cancer is the #1 disease, and that killing our children in the U.S. So we can continue to raise money, and if I could continue to use my platform to help raise money, and my teammates coming and to try to raise that awareness. Why not? Why not keep being that spokesperson and try to help Raleigh Foundation? Because, like I said, our kids is our future, and if one child, we raise enough money to, no matter if it's however many kids that we could raise some money for just in the city of Nashville to beat childhood cancer, I think that's the ultimate goal. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to next Thursday. I want to say it is next Thursday on the 9th. Right there in Nashville. Oh no, is it the 10th? It's
Yes.
the 10th.
Yeah. You're right. 10th. You're good.
Next Thursday, yep, on the 10th, and I'm looking forward to that. 'Cause I want to say, do you remember the number last year? I think it was almost 500 grand that we helped raise last year. That at the event that they, I want to say it was like. Do you remember? Do you know the exact number?
I do. I got the
I
number.
say
You were, and you
I
were.
know it's like it was real close.
You're so close. Go ahead,
So
take a guess.
it was 475. It was
That's
475.
right.
So
You nailed it right
yeah,
on the dot.
yeah, Yeah,
Yeah.
we raised I felt good about that, just to hear that number at the end because the people there, the people who come support Rally Foundation, I think they understand the mission that that foundation and that night what we were trying to accomplish that night. So like I said, I'm looking forward to it. A lot of my teammates, they be so excited. I'll be reaching out to a couple of my teammates. Normally around this time OTAs have already started, and you know and now it's easier to get a couple guys, but of course got to figure out who in Nashville that able to come out and help me out that night. I'm sure guys already reached out, guys like Tajay. I already talked to him, and I know he'll be in Nashville. So hopefully, he's able to make it. Guys like that. So it's a fun event. Walking down the runway with them kids. That's their Super Bowl of the night. Being able to walk that runway. And I look forward to it. I was there a couple weeks ago when they went and picked out some of the kids picked out their outfits for next week. So um, they're gonna be looking sharp. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to walking down that runway, and trying to help make another successful year by raising some money for and trying to raise awareness for childhood cancer. And hopefully we could beat that number. So, you guys listening to this podcast and listening in, be there. I think the website is I don't want to get this wrong. Rallyfoundation.org. I
You
think the
nailed it.
tickets is live.
Yep.
So hey, let's beat next year. Hopefully, we could get over $500,000 and keep raising awareness for childhood cancer. My biggest thing, and when I get up there talking, and I say, just imagine if that was your child and going through this, and you happen to get up and you know um, go to these doctor visits. I'm sure it's draining to the parents, but at the end of the day, we are out to make life and things but better by helping raise money and especially for this research of childhood cancer. So I'm looking forward to next week. I'm excited about it, and hopefully I can get a lot of my teammates out to help me,
Yeah.
walk around that room and have people bidding and on some of the things that up for auction next week, and raise a lot of money next week.
It's always an incredible event. I look forward to it every year. Fox 17 will be there like we always are, and you nailed it. 475,000 last year raised. Always want to raise the bar for this year, and you also mentioned it. It all goes to helping kids battling cancer and cancer research. You can find more information at rallyfoundation.org. You're listening to Jeffery Simmons on the Nashville GameChangers podcast. We'll be right back after this. Jeff, before we let you go, we got to incorporate my favorite segment. I think you're going to like this one. It's called In My Opinion. And I love this because it gives free range for our guests to talk about whatever is fueling them in the sports world, whatever they want to rant about, whether it's the Titans' #1 draft pick and everybody asking you, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Or something in college or something on social media, whatever you want to rant about, this is your moment. So what is your opinion, Jeff? What do you got?
I start off with the NFL side of it, especially playing my position. In my opinion, I wish people would, especially on the outside world, they say, "Oh, he had a down year, this and that," but they don't take in consideration that, you know, I wonder that, especially like this week, they got the NFL coaches meeting and they all down there, the media down there. And why not just go ask some of these coaches, head coaches, what is your game plan against number 98 for the Titans? It's never single blocks.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of looking at in my opinion, instead of looking at the game stat sheet, look at the game itself and how many hands is on number 98 every game.
The tape. Watch the tape, right? That's what you're saying. Watch the tape.
At this point, and you hate to say it to the media because then some people want to consider you as a butthole, but it's like sometimes I do get a little frustrating, and just to hear you not having a good year, what you think the problem is. I'm like, because I'm getting double teamed 95% of the game, so that's one of my opinion. Hearing about this first, of course we have the first pick. Yeah, at this point, I just want to win. I want to get back to being in the playoff. And of course, like during the Super Bowl, I told him that I want the Abdul Carter because I know thinking of it, I'm a defensive player. I know our fans didn't want to hear that, but I'm a defensive player, and I honestly believe defense wins championship. If we could affect the quarterback and we could get to the opposing quarterback and not just make hits on the quarterback, and we can actually turn all them hits into sacks and get the ball off the quarterback, I honestly feel like that's how you win championships. If you look at the Eagles that defense, the Super Bowl in the Super Bowl, I think want to say they had over like 9 sacks, and they only pressured like 3 times. So you have a defensive line, no matter who at quarterback, when yes, they scored points on the other side of the ball, but their defense won that game in the Super Bowl. They had 9 sacks, and I think they defense only pressured 3 times the whole game. So when you can affect a Mahomes, no matter, like I said, no matter who at quarterback, if your D line is being affected that whole game, you win championship games. So that's the reason why I voiced my opinion on that #1 pick. I don't know what we're gonna do. I don't know.
Right? That's what you're saying. Abdul Carter, defense wins championships.
Listen, I know everybody was talking about his, he was dealing with an ankle or whatever it may be, but we all done dealt with some coming out of college, some type of nicks and bruises, but by the time that first game of the season hit, I'm sure he'll be ready. And I think when people talk about a generation talent, I've seen him rush. I watched him during that playoff run. I watched him, and been seeing a couple. The way he moved when he working out, like that's what you call a player that you don't want to miss on. Don't get me wrong. You got 2 great quarterbacks that coming out this year who I also think 2 generational quarterback. And but me being a defensive guy, I'm gonna be a little selfish, and I want to go win, and I want to be able to affect the game. Just think about it. Me and Abdul Carter rushing on the same side. That'll be a scary sight for offense. So, that's my opinion on who I feel like we should take. I don't know what we'll do with that #1 pick, but whoever it may be, I'm sure them guys upstairs doing a hell of a job by doing their homework, and they're gonna pick the best one that they think that'll help us win football games, not just this year, but these next couple years to come. So, I think that's my little rant about them two. I think that's what has been on my heart. I haven't been really into the college series, especially after my dogs got put out pretty early. So
no, that's fair. I like it. I like that
Yeah.
opinion. And Jeff, I can hear the excitement, the passion in your voice for next season. Correct me if I'm wrong. Are you already itching to get back on the field, or do you still want maybe a week or two more of some fishing and golf?
Hey, don't get me wrong. I enjoy my off season. This the worst part of playing the game of football. I would say. Then you gotta go through this phase, and you gotta get your body ready. And I wouldn't say the worst part is, it's a part of the process, but this the part that you wish that, that turnaround time, of course, like the recovery time we need, but that turnaround time would just speed up a little bit. Like I said, I'm excited because I said, this the first off season where I haven't had to rehab. This the first off season where I haven't just had to take a couple weeks off, 4 to 5, maybe 4 to 6 weeks off from running or something in that nature. Now I'm really locked in with my trainers, working on the explosion, working on that get off and things of that nature. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready to get back. I don't really know my plan just yet when it comes down to the OTAs, but I'm excited. I know I'll be ready to roll and get after in camp. I can't wait to see. I'm actually up here with guys like Dan, who we just signed. We work out together. Over here in Dallas with the trainer Adam. So
Nice.
Just been already talking a little smack to him. He know that I even before we signed. He know I'll be talking a little smack while we working out together. So now he's my teammate. I told him he gonna get it more and more smack talk now. It's just not gonna be at practice. It's gonna be off the field too here training. So yeah, it's been fun to kind of get to know him a little bit better. And I even saw JC up here. He wasn't actually where I'm training at, but we went to this boxing gym and he was in there sparring. So
Ooh,
sparring.
did you try to
I'm
spar
not-
with him? No,
I
no.
listen. I said that sparring thing. I go in there and get some work in the boxing, but I don't think I want to do that sparring
Nah.
stuff. I let JC. he was in there going against a player from the Cowboys, and
Ooh.
he another guy who I could see changing his body, and talking to him, he excited about this upcoming season too.
Yeah.
So just seeing a couple guys that my teammates this off season, hanging out in the gym with Dan and guys in that nature. So I'm excited about what this season and see how much more better we could be this year with the pieces we added and the guys that coming back for next year.
Well, a couple things we learned from Jeffery Simmons on the Nashville GameChangers podcast today. One, don't spar with J.C. Latham. Don't even try. Two,
he got a nice right too.
Okay, he's got Two, he's got a nice right. Three, Jeffery Simmons never stops talking trash, even in the off season. And
Not at all.
And four, he also is a big fan of Abdul Carter, so that's good to know. And five, he's very passionate about his work in the community here in Nashville. No doubt Jeffery Simmons is one of the biggest game changers here in this city. Be sure to follow his foundation, Give Em A Reason. Also, be sure to follow Rally on the Runway coming up soon. Raises money for children with cancer. You can find more information on rallyfoundation.org. Big Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time out of your beautiful golf day to come talk to us on the podcast. Thank you, my friend, and thank you for everything you do in the community here in Nashville.
Most definitely. I appreciate you. Thank you for inviting me on a Game Changer podcast. And I'm wishing successful years to come with this podcast.
Woo! Thank you. I love that.
So many guys and coaches doing a great job in the community of Nashville.
Good.
And,
you can give me some. Give me a nice list. I got you. We'll get them on here.
I got you. I'll make sure we could. I think one guy that, like I said, we just got done talking about him. I seen him doing a couple things this past season, and JC, and we talked about it a little bit.
Ooh, he would be a great guest.
Just being in the community, and he did a lot of things. Especially on Tuesday during our off day. So just some things that sometimes could go unnoticed with guys like him being so young. But I think he's starting off. Because I always say I didn't do much my rookie year. But the way he's starting already, him and Sweat, because Sweat did a couple things this past year too. Just to be able to, like I said, them type of guys, especially guys like Sweat, and of course JC was our first round pick. Guys in our community, them kids in our community know who they are. So the more and more, my teammates and myself get in the community, who knows how many people we can affect. So
yeah, that's awesome. They're already hitting the ground running.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Jeff, thank you again, my friend, and we'll probably see you soon on the field coming up before you know it. And also at Rally on the Runway. I'll see you there as well.
Yeah, I'll see you next Thursday.
That's
next Thursday night. Hopefully it's gonna be hopefully, like I said, we could beat that 475 number.
Yep. We're on it. We're already on it. Thanks again, Jeff. Good luck on the rest of the 18.
Appreciate you. Have a good one.
Take care.